Okay, we are live on YouTube.
Wait, I still want to make sure John is on.
Yes.
I think you have to unmute your video.
Do you hear me now?
I sure can.
Echo?
No, it sounds good.
Okay, I hear my own echo. That'll be really weird.
Should we start or do you have an alternative? Okay, let's get started. This is February 10th, 2021. Design Review Commission. First item on the agenda is roll call. Chairperson Glenn Cass is here. Eugene and Kristen will not be here tonight. Who else is here? Armin
Aye.
and John
Here.
Gregg?
Yes, here.
Thank you. Second item is adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Glenn says aye. Armin?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Thank you. Third item is public comments. This would be items that are not on the agenda tonight. Is there any raised hands or
If you
star
would like to,
nine?
if you would like to make a public comment, use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen, and you'll be let in as a panelist. These are for items not on the agenda. I am not seeing any hands raised.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to item number 4, consent calendar. We have minutes of meeting from December 16th. The 3 commissioners present tonight were all at that meeting, so they can pass this. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Yeah, good minutes. Move to accept.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Armin?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Glenn? Aye. Number 5A is a study session. This is going to be a property that is at 5 Gable Lane. It involves a plan for a new 8,000 square foot single family residence. And our planner tonight is Renato.
Thank you, Chair. Give me one moment to share my screen, please. Okay, good evening, Design Review Commission. Before the Commission tonight is a study session application requesting comments on a proposed single-family residence at 5 Gable Lane. As a refresher for the Commission and the public, study sessions are an informal review of a project, and the Commission does not act on the application, but only provides comments to the applicant. Staff does not conduct a rigorous analysis of the proposal and the findings, only a brief summary. So the property is a vacant lot in the Hillside Overlay District, and the proposal is to construct a new 8,000 square foot 4-story single family residence with a maximum height of 51 feet. In order to proceed with a 2-phase hillside development permit, the applicant would need to complete a certificate of compliance to verify this is a legal lot of record. And site access is proposed off of Gable Lane, which would require an access easement from 1 Gable Lane. The expected design review or expected findings for this project include residential design guidelines, Hillside Overlay District findings, findings for a single family residence exceeding 17 feet in height, as well as a single family residence exceeding 6,000 square feet, a request for a height exception as well as variances to build slightly into the setbacks. Again, the commission only provides comments to the applicant and does not approve or deny the application. However, staff recommends that the commission provide comments in particular surrounding alternative building sites to limit the amount of grading on the site and preserve the hillside terrain, and also be more sensitive to the scale and massing in the context per the residential design guidelines. So before you is a rough rendering of the, of the massing. It's not to scale, it is not completely accurate, but to lay the site plan in context. That is all from me. Staff is available for any questions.
Yes, is there an easement already, or you're saying that they have to ask for an easement, or what?
Yes, it's my understanding that there's not one currently recorded to access the lot.
Okay, is that going to
I
be
believe that there
problematic?
is, I believe that there is some sort of shared easement agreement, is there not?
We can, Mr. House, you can present that there. You'll have an opportunity to present on the project. So my apologies. But we can clarify that further. I'll look in the file as well.
Okay, thank you. That's all my, do I have any other commissioner questions for staff? Okay, can we go on to the presentation by the applicant?
So basically, I don't know, so Michael is on and
Yep, I'm here straight.
yeah, I don't know what else you want to add. I mean, in summary, I think the project is pretty straightforward. I think what Michael was trying to do is to lower by lowering the driveway down the garage and trying to bring the building down rather than build up on the higher side of the mountain. So I think that's in order to build a large, a decent sized house or residence, but to try to bring it down as low in the mountain as possible. So I think that's a major component to trying to get this thing to do, and also to provide proper fire access at the top. There's one corner area where there's a very good view of Mount Diablo, and I know Michael was wanted to preserve that and try to take advantage of that. So he's got an expansive deck that's in that area and part of the living area, and everything else is, within pretty much within the 50 feet, which was a pretty big constraint. I mean, if you look at the other projects that have tried over the years, we've reviewed those, and they've all gone far outside of that 50-foot setback because it's difficult, especially with that site. But I think that's what we were trying to do here.
So I have a question. This is Chair Cass. What percentage of the property of the 8,000 square feet is inside the 50-foot setback?
I don't know that I have an exact number, but I can tell you that the building is, it's probably, I'd say, between 85 and 90% within the setback. So you can see the green line represents the setback.
Okay. Okay.
I think the only reason we are we are exceeding this because basically the area we can build is kind of triangle, right? It's not this setback is
Yeah, it's
creating.
a very difficult shape to deal with.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Can we ascertain if we have any questions from the public? Or I guess first is, or any commissioners have additional questions for the applicant? Okay, so we'll move on to public comments if we have any.
If you would like to make a public comment, please use the raise your hand function. Looks like we have one raised hand, so I'll go ahead and let Leslie Golden in. Hey, Leslie, you're in a meeting. If you'd like to unmute yourself, you have 3 minutes to make your public comment.
Okay, hi. Oops, let me get that going there. Come on. Okay, hi. I'm Leslie Leslie Wagstaff. This is my husband, Ed. I have a concern about the height of the building and the massing. It seems like the building needs to step back into the hill so it nestles a little more comfortably into the site. I wanted to make sure that there is appropriate screening between 1 gable lane and 9 gable lane. Our garages are very close together, maybe 25 feet apart. So this easement is going between the 2 homes, and we want to make sure that there's appropriate screening. And I was hoping that the asphalt driveway on the property line would provide a little more room so there's an appropriate screening that could happen on your property. What else? I don't know. Renata, I wrote a list there. I had 6 items. Screening, massing,
Can I ask you a question?
Oh, I know. I wanted to point out that there is an easement, but in 2 places, it's not sufficient to get a road that will pass the fire department. So the question is how that can be accommodated. Yeah. So anyway, that is a problem that needs to be resolved.
Okay, and can I ask a question? Is this a private road?
Yes.
Thank you. And do you have a road agreement for repairs?
We do not, and we have been trying to work with the neighbors to get that. Thank you for bringing that up, because I would want that written in, that it's a requirement that this property participate in a road repair program.
Okay, so Sarah, do you want to address that, or should I address that? That the city basically doesn't cover private properties. So that's why I'm bringing it up in advance, because this is something that normally comes up throughout the study sessions and through the later process. And it will be the responsibilities of the homeowners on that stretch to work out what the existing conditions are and what their expectations are, and get a sign off. The city will not be part of that process.
Okay, I appreciate understanding that. How does the city get involved in the easement issues?
Again, I believe not. I mean, unless there's a reason for a public easement for utilities or something like that, no.
Okay, thank you. But you are concerned about mitigation when they're building or putting in a road. The design review board does help us with mitigation. Is that not true?
Well, the city engineer looks at the design in regards to drainage and conditions like that. And there are some conditions that the fire district will create for access, turnaround, gates that you may put to separate their access from other people's access on the site, so on and so forth. So as they go through the process, they will be in contact with those agencies and find out what the conditions are. And then we just basically sign off on that it's been addressed, not how it's been addressed, but.
Okay. And then are you guys going to talk about the massing of the building at all?
Yeah, in fact, we're going to move on now to commissioner's comment. Well, we get a rebuttal first from the builder, the applicant, and then we'll go on to comments by the commissioners.
Thank
So
you.
do I have any other public comments?
See another hand raised, so I'll go ahead and let them in and I'll switch them out. Bruce is coming into the meeting now. And Leslie, I will make you an attendee. Thank you for your comment.
Okay, we should respond now.
Not yet. Bruce is now in the meeting who would like to make a public comment. Bruce, if you want to unmute yourself, you can go ahead and make your comment for 3 minutes.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
For some reason, my picture isn't up there.
We live without it.
Oh, well, you know what there it is. You know what I look like. It just happens that I did several different designs on this particular lot about 20 years ago or more. And I was just curious to know how you're dealing with the driveway access and the fire department, because that was one of the biggest problems I had in dealing with this lot then, was getting less than a 20% grade for the fire department and also getting a fire truck turnaround space down there. So just curious. That's all.
Okay, so we'll go back to the applicant and maybe they can address how they're going to address that.
Okay. And so addressing the driveway, well, if we could look at the plan, is there a way to look at the plan, the site plan here? Because basically what we didn't do a circular turnaround. There would, because this property is so restrictive, that wasn't really what we wanted to do. So if you look at the right, we're showing a minimum fire truck turnaround diagram. And what we did is we applied that over on the left. You can see you'd come in up on the high side of the site, and then you'd be able to back around at that point. You'd be going down a little bit. It's fairly steep. Our preliminary numbers show it about 18% at its worst slope. But you'd basically go there and then you could park, do your thing, and then turn around and go back up that way. So that was how we thought we'd be able to get around this thing. I imagine there'd be some bollards or trees or something just to protect this site when vehicles come down that thing. But that's the theory.
Okay, so any questions first? Okay, let's move on to commissioner comments. So who would like to start? Armin?
Sure. So I would start with the massing of the project. And can we share actually the screen to go to that Axon view, which shows the massing? Thank you. Thank you. So those 3 stories on the south side, I found it, this is basically not conforming with the residential design guidelines for the city. And I would recommend to look at a step massing that the building gets actually nestled into the hill more than it is now. Maybe it's by reducing the footprint of the area for the bedrooms, which I find it pretty large. It's pretty extensive. And the stepping of the massing at this side, maybe you would just step 2 stories rather than single story, and then you would get more open space on the top. Or rather than just coming all 3 stories down, maybe you would have a loggia at the base. So I find the massing congruent with the context. When I'm looking at the Google Earth in that area, all the buildings there are just single story. Don't see anything more than 2 stories or 3 stories tall anywhere close to the project. Maybe there are some 2 stories down the hill, but in terms of the articulation of the massing, they are far more broken down and terraced compared to the proposed project. And then on the north side, so encroachment into the setbacks, I think could get reduced by just shrinking the footprint of the building. And again, I feel like the size of the house, given the size of the property, is too large. So those are my 2 comments.
Okay. John, comments?
Yeah, thanks. So my comment, my major comment is consistent with Armin's, and it's regarding the size of the house. This is an 8,000 square foot house proposed for a 1.2 acre lot. I mean, that's a very large area on a not a very large lot. When I looked around at the other houses surrounding it and did a few quick calculations, most houses were, the ratio is kind of about 2,000 square feet per acre. You know, there's a very large house down the hill from you, but it's on a 7-acre plot. And then there are several other houses around on comparable or larger lots that are all significantly smaller. I just think it's too much house for the piece of property. And I apologize, I'm getting an echo in my ear of myself, which is making it a little difficult to talk. You know, if looking at an area reduction, either, I mean, I looked at it to saying just remove the upper story. And then you start to have an area, you know, where you, where the size of the house gets lower, the area starts to be a little more right. I understand the problems with the setback. And maybe if your neighbors are not objecting, the amount that you're encroaching in the setback could be acceptable on this odd-shaped small lot. But I think the total size of the house, as Armin said, the opportunity to step massing and get rid of that very tall single 3-story facade is something I would like to see looked at. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. And I sort of parallel the previous comments. I visited the site. I had a hard time exactly viewing the whole site because I was a little hesitant to go much beyond slightly in the backyard of number 1 and number 9. And I would say, first of all, is that the grade to me is about 20 or so at this point in time. So your easement is going to have to do some grading to get it down if the fire department's going to require 18. I think that, yeah, especially the downhill side, it's too tall, it's too boxy. It's sitting on top of a walkway, a little deck area, which also puts it another story up. It's way, way too out of proportion to what the residential design guidelines are. 8,000 square feet is a really large house for this size. And in order for you to get a variance to be in the setback, we have to have a finding that shows that the limitations on this property are such that it would require, you know, and the setback is not because there's a creek there or something like that. I would say you really need to consider cutting back the size of this house and try as much as possible to get it out of the setback. And other than that, no other comments. I do think that you're going to have to, early in the process, determine with the fire department what their requirements are going to be for their vehicle turnaround, where they consider that they will take their vehicle and the 150 feet that their hose will go from that point. Because they may not want to go up and down. They may want to just go to your backup little area. And I'm not sure if that's going to be satisfactory to meet the 150 lineal feet of coverage. That's pretty much it. Yes, John.
If I could say one more thing, when you come back to us, I think we really will want to see the relationship between your property and the neighbor's property. I'd like to see a site section to the neighbor that you're above. Make sure that that grove of trees is in fact screening, and so that we can understand not just the house itself, but the contacts with the neighboring properties, please. That's it. Thanks.
Okay. So there's no resolution or anything like that. It's just you take our comments and decide what you want to do. Do we
And I'll
have-
just say it is a study session, so if they do have any questions at this point, they could ask that as well, clarifying. So it's a little less formal than our normal public process, but otherwise, if you have what you need, we can
Move on.
move to the next step.
Okay, I guess we're gonna move.
Well,
to
I have
the-
questions.
Yeah, go.
So, so basically, well, for starters, the floor, if we go to the site plan again, there's a section that, the conceptual section, and if we could look at that.
No, that was sheet A3.
Possibly, yeah. So if we look on the bottom there, you can see that our proposed ridge is 686. What we believe, based on the civil drawings that the old stuff that we have, is the floor is 707 for the existing building to the left. So we are considerably lower. And so what we are trying to do here is, and you can see that vertical line, the property line, that shows, at least at this point, obviously it's a triangle, but wherever we cut it, that's where the property line was. But what we did here is we went back 50 feet from for the setback, and basically it's a one-story building at that point. And so we are considerably lower than the adjacent structures. And we thought that was a good thing, and that's why we brought the driveway down. It's also, so that's kind of where that came from. And one of the things walking around the site is when we came down to that point, which is again 50 feet back in the setback, in that corner, we had a very good view of the Mount Diablo. As soon as you start to go down, you begin to lose that. So yeah, this is a great plan. So if you see and then that was the other thing. So the deck, we actually, part of our request for an easement or a variance would be to allow the deck within the 50 feet, because the view is so beautiful up on the page to the right. And so, and the building couldn't really go into that 50 feet, although we tagged it a little again to make it a rectilinear building. But we wanted to really maximize such a beautiful view and so, to really take advantage of that. And so that's where that came from. And then as far as the taller massing over down, I mean, the site drops off very steep. So if we couldn't go down, to make it such a tall massing structure, we would still in the back of our minds want to keep the thing high, because we already found where we thought was a nice view within the 50 feet because it's dropping down quickly. And so that would be a preferred place for the living area. If we go down any further than that, unfortunately, I think that the view goes to almost zero. It really, that site has such a fantastic opportunity for that view. So that's really a driving thing. I think Michael identified that right away as something that he wanted to do. And, it is beautiful up there. So that's kind of where we like to stay up there rather than try to shovel the thing down and then in the flat area, get a few feet in the setback. It would be hard for us, but obviously we need to do what we need to do.
Yeah, might I add some comments from my side? I'm sorry. Is it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, Ray, thank you so much. I think you really presented this very clear and represented me very nicely here. So So I just want to add one comment, right? So initially my desire was not to build home of 8,000 square feet, right? This was not a goal, right? But when like Ray presented, when we build like one story on the level, when we have this very, very nice view, and we started to go down in terms of the slope, actually naturally we prefer to add more, maybe one more story there, in order not to keep this very big gap between, or do some grading, like put more soil there, because of such steep slope, right? So it was very natural to add another story. We actually built this right part of the house down the hill, preserving this one story on the top.
Yeah, we understand what you're saying, but it doesn't meet the residential design guidelines for a hillside. I suggest you look at those guidelines, because it basically says cut into the hillside and proportion the building along the hillside. And while you may have a great view, if you build a fire tire up there and look out, okay, it isn't going to be acceptable following the city's design guidelines. We're not precluding you from having a view. You're just going to have to refigure how you're going to do that. Okay, redo your layout. Look at the portion that you have that is coming off the north end, and basically that portion that's to the south may be where your view is from. And then the portion that is in the south now has to be stepped down and articulated, so that literally what we have now is almost 4.5 stories high. And that just isn't going to fly.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to the next item for this evening. So the next item is a continued public hearing. This is for the 2 Dulles Park property. And again, Renata is our staff person.
Let me just bring the applicant team in. I'm sorry, Arman. All right. Sorry. Try this again. Okay. Oop. Okay, good evening again, Commission. So this is the Commission's second review of the proposal for a new single-family residence at 2 Dulles Park. As a reminder, the proposal is to demolish the existing 2-story single-family residence and construct a new 2.5-story single-family residence, or a 2-story residence with a partial basement level. At the December 16th meeting, the Commission reviewed the proposal and provided feedback to the applicant for the project to return with revisions. The Commission brought up no issues with the architectural style, but found the building to appear too massive and not in compliance with the residential design guidelines due to the lack of facade articulation. The Commission directed the applicant to incorporate more architectural features to break up the western facade in particular, which was the tallest face of the house and appeared most massive, as it was previously a mostly blank wall sitting uphill from the main access road of North Thompson Road. Multiple neighbors provided feedback or public comment during the meeting in support of the project. However, the downhill neighbors at 1 Dulles Park expressed concerns about the height and scale of the proposal and its new siting closer to the property line. The applicant provided revised drawings with exterior treatment that incorporates architectural finishes that break up the massing, including stepping back the first floor from the basement approximately 8 inches, as well as extending this pent roof, originally only above the garage, and this portion of the western facade to wrap around the entirety of the western facade to the rear, which adds the horizontal lines and shadowing sought in the residential design guidelines. And they also added stone cladding with arches and pilasters to the basement level to add the texture and break up the massing of the structure. So staff finds that the modifications to the exterior design successfully implement key elements of the residential design guidelines, such as the horizontal orientation, the shadowing, and texture. Additionally, the applicant revised these windows to be more in keeping, to be vertically oriented, to be more in keeping with the French provincial style. Staff is able to make all of the findings after these revisions. And with regards to the landscaping, after the previous meeting, the applicant clarified that one of the mature oak trees proposed for removal on site will actually, in fact, be replanted on site as part of the landscape plan. And staff has provided condition that a certified arborist supervise the relocation and provide a letter certifying the tree was relocated using best practices. However, and the condition also stipulates that full mitigation under the tree protection ordinance be required if the tree does not survive relocation. Additionally, ahead of this meeting, the neighbor at One Dulles Park Road expressed concerns again about the visibility and privacy impacts of the development. Staff discussed the potential for incorporating taller plantings along this western shared property line to preserve privacy for the neighbor. And they were initially amenable to this change, but later wrote in public comment restating concerns about the project height. As this comment came in after the staff report was published, there was a condition including a revision to the landscape plan to incorporate taller plantings to be approved by staff. Upon review of the revised design proposal, staff is able to make all the findings necessary for this project and recommends the commission find the project exempt from CEQA and adopt DRC Resolution 2021-02, approving the application subject to conditions. Staff is available for questions.
Okay, do I have any questions from commissioners to staff? Okay, let's move on to the applicant. So that would be Bruce, I assume. You're still muted, Bruce.
There we go. Okay, now can you hear me?
Yes.
As Renata said, we addressed the comments from the past meeting by wrapping the roof of the garage around the west side all the way back. In fact, we wrapped it around a little bit of the corner to provide a proper ending for it. And because the neighbor's house is so low, mostly what they're going to see is the bottom of that wall. So we clad it with stone, and I added some additional detail with the arches and the pilasters just to give them a little more interest on the part of the house they would see the most. They have also added, for some reason my computer's going nuts here. They have also added, the neighbors requested some additional planting, which we're open to doing, although they've also planted grapevines along the property line, which they're going to be looking through anyway. So I'm not sure ours or additional planting is necessary, but if that's what it takes to get approval, we will do it. And again, there were a couple of comments at the last meeting about the windows, so we changed those to a more vertical, uh, proportions to fit the design of the house a little more consistently. And so we feel we've addressed the comments, and we appreciate it if you would approve it tonight. If you have any questions, I'm still here.
Okay, commissioners, do we have any questions? None? Okay, let's open it up to public comments. Do we have any raised hands or star 9 applicants?
If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please use the *9 function if you're calling in, or raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. I do not see any hands raised.
Okay, let's go on. No rebuttal then. Let's go on to commissioner comments. John, you want to start this one?
Yeah, sure. I appreciate that there have been some incremental improvements to the design. I think the base treatment does help mitigate the height on that west facade. But I will tell you, and I think the window treatments are a design improvement as well. I will tell you that I don't believe that you have addressed the requirements of the design guidelines as I see them. This is still a blocky mass with a very tall corner where the site is low. Other than that small 8-inch step at the west facade by the garage, the massing, as far as I can tell, is unchanged. And I believe that in particular, your southwest corner of the house is very tall and it's unmitigated rise. I'm disappointed not to see some adjustment of massing come from our previous comments. So the comments that I made in our session in December, I believe are still applicable. I know you have those in the minutes. So that's all I have to say.
Okay. Armin?
I agree with John that the same. I appreciate the changes to the articulation of the elevations, but the massing has not changed much. Though, if there is any issues about the size of the building, I would ask the architect to make revisions and come back to the DRC to just make changes, especially at the southwest corner. Maybe a stepping down at that corner. That's a solution here. But the same, I find that it's taller than the rest of the buildings on in that context.
Okay, and I guess I'm going to differ from the other two commissioners. I think the design is unique for Lafayette. We don't have many of these French mansard roof designs. I think that I'm a little surprised that it was only an 8-inch bump out, but I can live with that. And the Juliet balconies help give some articulation as well in various areas of the property. I would be willing to accept it as it is, but I guess I'm not the majority here.
Do I get a response here, or?
Well, not regularly, but I don't. Yes, I think that we'll give you a very short response.
Okay. It was my impression at the last meeting that several of you had made the comment that if we just bump the garage out maybe a couple of feet or wrap the roof around, that would satisfy your the problems you have with the design. We couldn't push the garage out because we were right on the setback line. So instead I pushed the wall of the house back above the garage, that 8 inches, to give us enough room to structurally support that wraparound roof. Now it sounds like you want more of a step back on that front corner, which will require more of a severe redesign of the house.
So one question I have for the applicant is, do you find that there is an opportunity to reduce the height by just reducing the floor-to-floor height and reducing the slope of the roof?
We could reduce the floor-to-floor height of foot, I suppose, on each floor. The roof is steep because it is sort of a mansard design. We're trying to tuck as much space on that upper floor as we can into it, and that's one reason it's steep. So if we make the roof less of a slope, then that also kind of takes away from the French design, the mansard look. So I'm hesitant to do that.
So maybe one solution I could.
So how much would you take off of each floor? How much can you reduce each floor height? Can you get a foot off of each one?
I think we could probably get a foot off of each one. We have the upper floor is vaulted into the roof, so I already had less than an 8-foot plate height there because of the vault. I can easily take a foot off the main floor. The upper floor is a little tougher to deal with because of that roof.
And what's the height of the garage floor?
I think it was 12.
Well, maybe you can take a foot off of it.
Well, then we're going to be digging into the hill more on the upper end, so we'd be moving more dirt. I was trying to avoid that because we already have retaining walls above the house on the property line.
You'd be moving more earth because you want to expose the stone on the south facade, or what?
No, if I reduce the height of the garage, in other words, bring the house down by bringing the ceiling of the garage down, that's the floor of the main house. So that means it would be lower. So it would be digging into the hill more on the upper end.
Sorry, can we go to sheet A4? I think there is a section we could look at the height of the garage. Because from that section, if we just lower the main level, I mean, if we could have a
As
garage with
the side is higher as it's further into the page.
Right. It looks easy at this end with the garage end, but at the other end, we already have a 2-foot step up for the bedroom at an angle. And so if I drop this another 2 feet, we'd end up with a 4-foot difference, and that starts to change things dramatically, I think.
Well,
I mean, it sounds like I'm going to need to look into doing something like that, because to solve your complaint about it being high.
You know, Bruce, last time we spoke, I asked you to look at the city design review guidelines. I mean, I've got them on my screen. If I can just point out a couple things, may I?
Sure, go ahead.
So this is the guidelines, and oh, something's going wrong. Why is my screen not working? And all right, you know, this is not going to work. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to stop sharing my screen. It's not working. Anyway, there's the design guidelines, just are a series of almost cartoony sketches of do's and don'ts in stepping massing into hillsides.
Right.
The part of your design that I see as most contradictory to it is the corner we're talking about. That is the bathroom off the master bedroom. If there is a way to reconfigure, you know, and somewhat shrink your required floor area in that part of the house to create a little step back with a small balcony or something, but not just 8 inches, but something that interrupts the verticality at that corner and creates a feature that allows the house to step back where it's tallest and is somehow in conformance with the rest of your composition, and can look at just reducing the flat planes that are seen from a distance on the site. I think the Juliet balconies you have on the rear help cast shadows, but the front facade does not have those kind of elements to cast shadows as seen from a distance.
Right.
And so you'll have a large plane as seen from far away, which is just what these guidelines are trying to avoid.
Okay, so Bruce, we gave you a couple suggestions.
Yeah.
So one is to look at the master bathroom area, and the other is to look again at shaving down some of the height floor to floor.
Right. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Okay, so on to the next.
So we need a motion to
Oh.
continue.
Yes, we do. So do I have a motion to continue with the recommended changes to the southwest corner and to the floor to floor
Are we
height?
able to pick a date certain?
How soon will you be available to come back, Bruce?
Probably not the next meeting, but the meeting after that.
Okay. So if Sarah can tell us the date, I don't have a calendar in front of me.
Yeah, I don't either.
That would be March 10th, I believe.
Okay.
Okay, so move to
Do I have a
continue
motion to move
to March 10th.
Motion made by John. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Thank you. So all in favor, say aye. John?
Aye.
Armin?
Aye.
Glenn? Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to continual session 6B, which is the residence at 777 Tanglewood. And Jonathan is our planner on this. And Jonathan has agreed to address comments that were raised in a letter that we should have all received today from the Homeowners Association. And he will also do his presentation of where we stand on revisions.
Yes, thank you. I'll touch on the public comment after the revisions. So HGP 0618 TAM is a phase 2 hillside development permit for the construction of a single family residence at 777 Tanglewood Drive. At the previous meeting on January 13th, the commission offered comments to the applicant to better align the project with the required findings for approval. So I'll provide a summary of the commission's comments and also speak to the applicant's response to those comments. The commission directed the applicant to break up the continuous plaster stucco at the south elevation and make it more presentable to Tanglewood Drive. It noted that although it's the rear of the residence, it would present itself as the front to Tanglewood Drive, given how visible it is. The applicant added 3 windows at the upper floor hallway and stairway, and also replaced a portion of the facade with dark bronze metal panels that is also incorporated on the front and side of the residence. The commission asked the applicant to introduce horizontal elements to the east elevation to break up the massing. At this side, the applicant expanded the footprint of the first floor at the garage, creating the appearance of a second floor step back, and also wrapped the balcony around the corner. And finally, the applicant increased the thickness of the bridge railing, which was recommended by the commission. At the previous meeting, the applicant presented a curved roof, and the commission asked for more variation in roof form. In response, the applicant incorporated a combination of curved roofs and flat roofs at different elevations, shown here at this rendering from the front elevation. The commission asks the applicant to investigate sightlines and privacy impacts to the property to the northwest at 9 Cerro Encantado. In response, the applicant prepared sheet A4.3, which illustrates 9 Cerro Encantado sits at a higher elevation compared to the subject property. They've revised their landscape plan to incorporate additional trees at the front at the front yard. So that is it for the revisions. Staff finds the applicant responded to the commission's comments, but not all of the modifications lead to a more compliant project. Specifically at the east elevation, the applicant should consider removing the new building area and solely using the wrapping of the balcony around the corner and redesigning the bridge. Because as a reminder, the Planning Commission's approval for floor area and building footprint should be considered a maximum that can be shaved to produce a better project, not increased. And with this adjustment, the floor area and building footprint has increased compared to what was approved in phase 1. I'll take a moment to address some public comment that was received after publication of the staff report. These comments were emailed to the commission and posted to the city's website. So first, just a brief overview of how we've gotten to where we are today. In 2013, the city reviewed and approved a certificate of compliance, which found the subject property to be a legal lot of record. This means that the city must allow viable economic use of the property. And in this case, a single family residence is allowed, is a permitted use in the R10 zoning district. In 2017, and again in 2020, the Planning Commission approved a phase 1 hillside development permit, which established the siting and general design concept for the residence. Phase 2, which is where we are now with the Design Review Commission, looks at the design details of the project. This means color, material, architecture, landscape lighting, areas such as emergency access and drainage will be reviewed by the Fire and Protection District and the city engineer respectively before a building permit is issued. Both those agencies have given initial comments on the preliminary design, but again, final review for those 2 items comes before a building permit. So specifically received some comments about road access and ensuring emergency access on a private road. And the city has a standard condition of approval that accompanies hillside development permits that requires the storage of construction material, debris, and vehicles to be on the subject property. That condition continues to say that the temporary storage of construction material and vehicles must be kept on the property and outside of a private easement or public right-of-way. So this means that through conditions of approval, the city can ensure that the construction does not impact private roads. As for road maintenance, the city as a public agency cannot require a property owner to repave a damaged private road. Often a neighborhood will enter into a road agreement to establish financial responsibility for road damage amongst its members. And lastly, in regards to an architectural review committee, the city as a public agency cannot require a property owner to comply with CC&Rs of a homeowners association, even those calling for a review by an HOA's architectural review committee. The city is responsible for evaluating a project against the Lafayette Municipal Code and its corresponding documents like the residential design guidelines and general plan. And the city has its own design review board, which is where we are today, Design Review Commission, but we do not require projects to be reviewed by a private design board. So I believe the applicant has a short presentation to give. Staff recommends the commission review the project, conduct a public hearing, provide direction to the applicant, and continue the project to February 24th to allow the applicant to make those changes. Here for any questions.
Any commissioner questions? Yes, Armin, you have a question.
Jonathan, you mentioned there has been an increased area from the Planning Commission approved plans versus the proposed plans. May I ask how much is that?
Yes, I believe I'll do a quick calculation here, but it's just for that small addition on the east elevation for the garage. So this plan has 2461, and I believe the previous was around 22, if I'm not mistaken. I'll look it up. Happy to field another question if there's any while I'm looking this up. So the previous plan was, let's see. Mike, do you have that number off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head, but it is on the cover sheet, the very first sheet on A0.1.
The added area is 6 by 14 feet. That's that little pop out on the garage.
Correct. And that was, the footprint of the coverage didn't change. That was always there as the recycle and refuge area. So I just enclosed that. Actually, I reduced it a little bit, the footprint, but it did come into the garage. But I can go over that in my presentation.
So that'd be about 80 square feet.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the applicant.
All right. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you, Jonathan. And I did want to ask a clarifying question. You had mentioned something about continuing to come back to take this square footage back out, but you mentioned something about the bridge, which I wasn't certain what needed to be done with the bridge. Maybe I misunderstood that. Could you clarify that?
Sure. I think in that regard, you responded to the commission's comments to increase
Oh,
the thickness
okay.
of the railing. So I think
Okay, yeah,
that has been done.
yeah. I didn't want to make it solid. Okay, so in Jonathan's presentation, I think he hit all the high spots. I have a comparison here I can do to show the area that I took in. This area here was before an access. This was going to be the refuge and trash area here that we'd bring out to the street. And what I did is you can see that actually I took in the garage area into this space here, but I actually reduced the footprint of the coverage of the house. So this is the area here that was an additional square footage. And I think that overall, this is a much better design because it incorporates what the commission had asked me last time, is to wrap this element around the house. And I did have in my previous presentation a small eyebrow roof here. So that's basically, or similar, it would be this railing would wrap around, but there'd be nothing underneath it. Where in this one, it actually has a plane out here that really does help break up this elevation. You can see this is the prior and this is the proposed. So this elevation, I think, has achieved what we were requested to do. In the front elevation here, you can see that the door is where you would use to walk back to get the refuse, and now it's enclosed. So it's for animals and whatnot. It actually is a better design.
Do you mind if I ask a question while we're talking about this location?
Sure.
When I looked at the cover sheets on the current version and the previous version, the total area number is the same, 2461. Is that correct?
Yes. I reduced area up here on this whole side of the house.
Okay.
So I think I just what it went is the conditioned area reduced and the unconditioned area increased, the non-conditioned area right here.
So Jonathan, does that address the comment that you had made?
Actually, I'd done this a while ago, so I was looking at it. 96 for.
Is this not updated?
Oh, this mustn't have been updated. I apologize. That's strange. I thought I had this updated. So,
Okay, but we're talking.
Anyway, I did reduce it slightly, but I don't think I reduced it enough to offset this. But I would rather actually go back to the planning commission to have them evaluate this as far as that square footage, than to pull it back out and, go back to something that would be similar to this, but with just the balcony coming across. I think this is a much better solution visually and for the design guidelines of breaking up the two-story mass. So as you can see, it's, it really works. It's a massive wall. I think this thickness of the wall works in with the other side of the building and what's happening in the center. So yeah, I mean, I think that there's a couple, I would rather not continue to do a design review if you think that I've made the requirements of what you were asking last time. In the back roof, the roof now undulates. It's not one long curved roof, but has a corporation of flat roofs and curved roofs. I'd rather have it sort of approved on the design review level and then go back to a planning commission to get this, to get that square footage increased. I mean, by the planning commission, if that's what it takes. I think it's overall, it's a better solution. Yeah. So anyway, that's as you can see, the section that was asked to be done demonstrated the a lot of drawing, sorry. I walked up there. I didn't even know this house was back there. When I walked all the way up, then I saw it. These trees are a pretty easy plant for visualization. There are many trees and stuff up here now, but that would be a perfect place to plant. And that's in the landscaping plan, that would be right. Sorry, it takes some trees a while to generate. These are the trees here because that's the section. So you can see all the light gray trees are existing. I would be infilling some trees in between. The view coming up Tanglewood this way, I would have, there's a little gap in the trees here, so I'd plant there, and then down below, underneath this canopy.
Excuse me, Mike, do you mind going full screen on the PDF? It's hard
sure,
to see the plan.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Underneath the canopy here, you can see these trees here, or these bushes. These will fill in underneath the canopy of these existing trees and these eventual oak trees. So in my there's a visualization from this one here. You can sort of see them here and here and here. These are the trees that will grow into the below the canopy. So that was one of the concerns last time too. And as you can tell, again, I do want to reiterate that the height, you can see this is a road. This is from a topography map, civil engineering. You can see that that's, as you're coming, that's from road level. So from eye level in a car, this is really what you're going to see. And if I turn on the trees here, you'll see that it'll be quite well concealed from the road. So you can see these light gray trees right in here being planted. So that's all I have for my presentation. I would be happy to answer questions.
Okay, any commissioner questions? Okay, let's move on to public comments. Do we have raised hands?
I have a question. For Mike.
Yeah.
So Mike, do you have a kind of frontal photo from where you are looking at the model from the slide?
I'm sorry.
Or do you have anything, a frontal photo that shares, you know, what we could actually see on
A
the slide?
photo montage?
Not even a photo montage, just a photo from the road. If you're standing on the Tanglewood
Oh,
Road,
yes, I
looking down
have,
the side.
I do have those. I don't have them on my computer right now. They're at my
Okay,
work.
okay.
Yeah. Actually, in the public comment or something, maybe I can go back into my computer via remote and pull out some of those photos.
Okay, Sarah, do we have any comments tonight?
If you would like to make a comment on this item, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen, or *9 if you are calling in. So I have a couple of comments. I'll let Rory in first, and he'll have 3 minutes to make his comments. And Mike, if you want to stop sharing for the moment, that'd be great.
Yeah. Let's see. Thank you.
Hi, Rory, you're in the meeting. If you'd like to unmute, you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay, now can you hear me, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes, Rory.
Yeah, I'm Rory Schneider. I live at 768 Tanglewood. I'm the chair of the Architectural Review Committee. I wrote a email to the commissioners, which I hope you've seen. Jonathan said he would give it to you. Did you guys see that?
Yes, we did.
Okay, I'm just going to highlight a couple of those for the people that are listening. First of all, regarding CC&Rs, I understand you guys don't have to enforce those. That's up to us, the Architectural Review Committee. But are you guys aware of those? Do you have access to those? Would you like me to send you some? Let me know on that one. And I talk about a lot of variances that are granted, one of which is the provision that we require that each lot shall provide space thereon for off-street parking of at least 2 automobiles in addition to covered parking. Parking of vehicles of any kind shall be restricted to parcel A and shall be prohibited elsewhere on private street frontages. I don't see any room in that plan for that. But that, is, of course, is up to the owners and the architect. You might want to consider that because that's going to be a problem with our committee. Regarding setbacks, we'll look at the setbacks. I didn't have time to research them all, but sometimes the CC&Rs for the homeowners associations are more restrictive. So we will check that. And then this is my sentence I like. My best assessment of the property is that full compliance with the setback requirements would allow for a house roughly the size of a small tent. And next, David Dinneman wrote, he's our president, a nice email about considering drainage, ingress, and egress. And if those are ignored, there could be big problems down the road. And finally, let me finish. I'd like to know about construction logistics. I haven't heard anything about how long it will take to do this construction. I would imagine to remove 28 trees, which is ridiculous, but that's going to take a couple weeks. And then how long to build that $93,000 cement bridge? I see the construction going on for more than a year. What we'd like to see is a detailed plan of logistics, maybe by the next meeting, so we know what's happening. I don't even know if there's room for cement trucks to fit on Northwood Road to go up there and build that bridge that they're talking about. And my conclusion, is there any end in sight for this project? We've been going since 2016. We keep kicking the can down the road. Meetings canceled, rescheduled. We've already had 2 LPD meetings. And now I heard Mr. Massano suggest maybe we go back and do another one. We're all getting pretty tired of this. I think you are and we are. So is there any end to it? That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, next comment from public.
Oh, sorry, that was the 3-minute timer. Angelique, I will promote to panelist.
Hi, I'm a new Tanglewood resident, so this is all new to me, but my main concern is that when I look at the maps for through Lafayette, it indicates that there is a second exit through Old Mountain Road that we could get out of the neighborhood if should we need to. And that's actually not accurate. So I just want to make sure that you all know that. I don't know if you go to site visits or anything, but the only way for about 20 families to get in and out of that neighborhood is down Tanglewood Road. And I've walked on that road, on North Road, and I don't see how you could get a cement truck on that road, which means that for the construction, you would have to park a cement truck on Tanglewood, which I'm not sure how that works because we would be blocked. We would be totally blocked in. You can see from your pictures that there's no place to even park on Tanglewood Road. And and it's really hard for even two cars to pass each other. So it's a real worry to how that would work. So I just wondered how that gets addressed.
Okay, and any other public comments?
So you don't address it, is what you're saying, or do
We have a rebuttal. We have a rebuttal by the applicant.
Oh, okay, great. So like I said, just to make sure you're very clear that the maps that you guys are looking at that show the roads in our area show that there's two entrances and exits. There are not. There is only one. I just want to make sure you know that there's only one. So
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, and any additional comments?
And then we have
Yes.
one. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I don't see any screen. But you can hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yes, Ellen Anderson, 1 Tanglewood Place. We still have an ownership problem. The plans and the staff reports show Tack and Cindy Tam as the owners. Back 5 years ago, when this application process started, we were told, the homeowners were told that Tack and Cindy Tam, a married couple, wanted to purchase the property and build a house for them. Rory provided the current deed to Jonathan Fox, which I assume has been distributed to the commission. And this current deed, recorded on August 31st, 2016, from Dino Regio, was granted to, again, Tack Cho Tam, an unmarried man, Alexander Tack Tam, a single man, Victoria Land Tam, a single woman. As of today, these people, 3 people, are the current owners. Now, at the HOA meeting last month, the homeowners were told that these 3 people are the officers of ATV Investment LLC, a real estate investment company. Presumably, ATV stands for Alexander, Tack, and Victoria. Again, neither of the men are married, and Cindy La Tam is not on the deed or in the LLC. She is not an owner of the property. Therefore, the application is defective and should be withdrawn. And the house, the current house plans, which have been amended, the house still looks like an industrial concrete box with its rear to Tanglewood Drive. It doesn't fit in the neighborhood. The city and the commissioners continue to ignore the setback requirements, easements, CC&R requirements, and tree ordinance. Moreover, the city and commissioners have ignored and or skirted around the important issue of damaging or flooding Tanglewood Drive. Tanglewood Drive, a private road. These issues must be dealt with, as Tanglewood Drive, as you know, is the sole road to get in and out of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, any last public comments?
I don't see any other hands raised at this time.
Okay, so rebuttal by the applicant.
Thank you. Okay, now on the off-street parking, you can see that we have in a construction plan here that will all be built from this road. This is a cement truck. It can fit up here. These are all work trucks. We've got 2 in the garage and 2 outside. So we make the parking ordinance, city requirements, the parking ordinance. Also, there is a very detailed construction duration and sequence that was required by Department of Fish and Wildlife, which is on file in the city office, that says the duration and the sequencing of work. So that's that explains and talks about the construction and the method of construction. We understand, always have, always presented that we knew there's no parking on Tanglewood. We're not blocking this in any way, means, or form. We did a 2-year study that we had to go through Department of Fish and Wildlife to acknowledge this drainage swale. And we have that again on record. We also had a creek setback approved by the city council. So everything about this swale has been studied and approved in the sequence as required by the city. As when a person is living here, this is the place. This is the place that it gets blocked. This will be maintained. You can see there's a lot of debris on site, dead trees, fallen branches, all gets clogged up here. When this site is developed, it will actually improve the likelihood of this not flooding, because during meetings, they said, oh, the other year it got up to 5 feet within, well, that's because this is clogged. So it's our contention that having this site developed and lived on will actually improve the drainage and the likelihood of it not flooding. I covered ingress, egress, construction duration. There's no second access. I don't think that we were ever presenting that there was a second access in and out of Tanglewood. Mountain View is an old abandoned trail. I know that. I think that the city knows that. The ownership, if that's, and I said this last week, if that's what it takes, I can revise the application. I'm not going to void it or pull it and have to go through this process again, just to change a name on that. So I would have to have that conversation with Sarah as far as the legalities of the property owners. We did submit a title report as required by the city. It's been mentioned that we have our back towards Tanglewood. Oh, let me first address the setbacks. As you can see, the reason that the house is the way that the house is because of the composite of setbacks. We have, this is the setback map right here. The house is fully outside of the setbacks. There are trees and there's slope, but the setbacks are honored. We did not ask for a variance, nor received one for a setback requirement. And then the industrial box, we had originally had a plan that came off of Tanglewood Drive up here. The driveway and stuff was up here. We accessed it down here. Tony Coe, city engineer at the time, would not allow us to put our driveway here, period. We fought that one for several months. He said, this is the way you have to access the property. So the only way that we can do it is if we access the property here, we have to bridge across to get to our house. We can't have 2 fronts of the house. That's why the house is oriented the way it is, through a process of many meetings. So I believe that we have made all of these requirements. I don't want to go back to Planning Commission, as I believe Rory had mentioned. But if that's what it takes, I'm confident that with the articulation and the design development of this structure, since they've seen it, well, all the planning commission is new by now, that they would allow this. If not, I mean, if it would appease and get this thing approved today, I'll go ahead and put it on consent calendar if you'll allow it, and I'll just take this mass off and I'll wrap this patio deck around here and everything will look the same. We'll just get rid of this. So that's my rebuttal. Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to move on to commissioner comments. Who wants to start this one? John?
Sure, thank you. I would like to say that Mr. Masana, you have been, I would say, exceptionally responsive to our comments. I think you've improved the design. Now this is the third time we've seen it. I think you've been responsive in every way. I think, not only have you been responsive to our comments, but I believe you've improved the design just as in terms of what the house looks like. The only controversy perhaps is that end by the garage, because there may be an area issue there. I agree with you that is a very nice solution at that end of the building to articulate the total mass into smaller elements. I think it works really well. If you could potentially maintain that plane that creates that look of mass, but have that outdoors, if it was kind of a breezeway there, if that is the difference between getting approval tonight and not. But I see you as being fully compliant with the city required setbacks, as we've said, and with the design guidelines as we've been discussing. So I would just say thank you for listening to us, and I think it's a nice project.
Okay, Armand?
So I appreciate all the changes made so far, and I think there has been progress. I question the change, the balcony change on the east corner, on this east elevation, as the way that it's wrapping and covering that with the plane, or basically just bringing out the wall. I think that's kind of countering what the balcony was supposed to do, to just create a horizontal line, which is basically casting shadow, just to break down, that verticality. It's basically, now you're introducing a vertical plane with another plane set back above it. So I don't think that's progress in terms of adding more horizontality to the massing. And I was driving by the site today, and I find that Tanglewood has the view from the Tanglewood to the building is much more than what we see in the renderings and the 3D model. It's basically, what is shown here would be very visible from Tanglewood, and the lack of articulation on that elevation, that concerns me from what would be seen from the public right-of-way. Basically the nicest facade, which is the north facade, it wouldn't be seen from any right-of-way around the project, but the south elevation, which is the more, it's exposed, it's not very well articulated. So I would ask the applicant to just revise that elevation even more and bring more articulation to that facade. Now it's just a bunch of punch windows, and there is not much in and outs of planes on the south elevation. And then my last comment is about the materials. From the colored elevations, it's hard to tell what exactly is the material and how well they would just get integrated with each other. And there is no renderings to show that. So if you're going to have a next meeting, I would ask the applicant to submit the material samples as well.
Okay, Any other comments on? You done?
No, that's it. Yes.
Okay, I sort of concur with John. I think that there's not much articulation on that one facade. On the other hand, you have a very tight setback. And I think that the way that we've covered the articulation is by changing the material. And I think the introduction of the third material, and I think the changing of the roof lines help as well. While it's visible at this point in time, I think that the planning scheme will hide a lot of that facade like we saw in the renderings there. So I think that while it's not the best facade within the constraints that have been established for this site, I think it's livable. As far as the bump out and the 80 square feet, I'm going to go back to Sarah. Why would we have to go back to planning for the 80 square feet? We've never had that in the past.
So Planning Commission approved a very specific sort of massing and square footage. And although I don't know that 80 square feet would necessarily trigger that, just because it is quite minor.
Yeah, it's never, in my opinion, triggered it. I mean, you know, I've never seen that before where it's so rigid that it has to be exactly this and nothing more, not an inch more.
I would have to double check. It might be a specific condition of approval because it was quite contentious when it did go through phase one. So that would be the reason.
I know, but it shrunk quite a bit from the original design. I mean, not what we saw, but from the 2017 design. And so I think the bump out is the way that I would prefer to do it. Because what we said before was we didn't like that corner at the edge of the garage and it going straight up. And if you don't do that bump out and all you do is the balcony, we're right back at the comments that we had 2 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, wherever it was. Okay, so I don't want to be a commission that keeps yo-yoing back and forth, do this and then undo this and redo this. So again, I think that I'm satisfied that we've made progress to the extent that I'm willing to make the findings to approve this. So I guess the question is John, are you ready to make the findings or do we go back?
No, I agree with you. I'm ready to see this approved tonight. Okay,
Armand, I hate to say this, but you have a chance to vote for it, but I'm going to make a resolution that we adopt the design as it's been modified. Do I have a second?
Actually, so go ahead, Jonathan.
The motion would be to direct staff to prepare
you
a
didn't
resolution
prepare,
approval
okay.
for the next meeting, and
Okay.
you can place it on the consent calendar if you'd like.
Okay, I'd like to do that. If possible.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? John?
Aye.
Armin?
Aye.
You don't have to say aye, but okay. Glenn, aye.
No, that's the majority, right? Yeah.
Well, it doesn't have to be unanimous. It just has to be majority opinion.
Sure.
Okay, so we will draft those conditions up and put it on the consent calendar.
Excellent.
For
Thank
the
you.
24th.
And Sarah, you're going to take care of the whatever's needed on the title so that item can be off the comments.
We can address that, yes.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, we're moving on to the
Thank you
last
very much.
item tonight, right? And the last item that I have tonight is a new project. And it's for a project at 4 Rimrock Road. And our project planner is Jonathan again.
All right, thank you. Just one moment, please, to transition.
I accidentally let an attendee in, so I will let. There we go. This is the- okay.
Okay, HDP 0420 Awad is a hillside development permit for the demolition of an existing single-family residence and the construction of a new 5,996 square foot single-family residence in the Hillside Overlay District at 4 Rimrock Road. So first we'll zoom in and show where the property is in the context of the city. All right, here we are at 4 Rimrock Road. The property is accessed from Moraga Road, public going into Rimrock Road, which is private. The property is surrounded by residentially developed parcels on most sides with the Lafayette Reservoir just to the west. The scope of work involves the demolition of an existing single-family residence and the construction of a new, larger, taller, slightly further downhill residence. The triggers for review are a hillside development permit due to the project's location in the Hillside Overlay District, design review for structures exceeding 17 feet in height, and a grading permit for grading more than 50 cubic yards. So staff is generally supportive of the project, finding that it complies with the development standards of the R20 zoning district for off-street parking, setbacks, and maximum building height. The project also poses minimal view and privacy impacts. There's significant vegetation between the closest neighbors here at 6 Rimrock Road and 3 Rimrock Road, and an opening in vegetation in the rear at the north elevation provides views towards 2 Rimrock Road. That property is also owned by the Awads, who are the property owners for this project. View impacts in the Hillside Overlay District are assessed using the city's viewing evaluation sites, which are typically taken from public vantage points at lower elevation. So staff went out and went to the closest viewing evaluations to the site, Moraga Road, Hamlin Drive, and Mountain View Drive, and found that the project site could not be seen. The opening in the rear provides a potential for properties on this segment of Mountain View Drive to see the residents to the rear elevation across the valley. Therefore, staff recommends that the applicant revise the proposed stucco color to be a darker shade to reduce its visibility from these residences and blend the project in further with the natural environment. A notice of public hearing was mailed to all neighbors within 300 feet of the property and no comments were received. We sent a request for comments from the city's referral agencies as is standard for all projects, and comments from the fire district state that the project does not comply with the district standards for emergency access. It's my understanding that the applicant is working with the fire district to revise the plans and obtain a second round of comments. But because the hillside development permit findings refer to emergency access, staff recommends the commission not approve the application until the fire district indicates that the project can comply with the fire code. We want to avoid issuing an approval to only return back to the DRC because the fire district finds that the building footprint is too large. With that, staff recommends the commission review the proposed project, conduct a public hearing, provide any comments, and continue the item to February 24th to allow for updated comments from the fire district. Here for any questions.
No questions? Armin? No questions? I guess no questions, Jonathan.
No questions.
Okay, can we move on to the applicant?
Hi, this is Sam and Tracy Awad. We're the applicants. I'm not sure if Stephen Kubicek's on. He's our architect. And I don't know if he was going to present this or not, but we'd like to thank the commission very much for considering our project. Jonathan for working with us. And as Jonathan mentioned, we have been working with Todd Sheese at the fire department. And we have provided him today with our plans. We believe they are compliant and we should get them passed. So we're hopeful that that will go through quickly.
Okay, and you want to, I don't think the architect's not there, right, Sarah?
I don't see
It could
him.
be.
Jonathan, do you have, actually, I can email him really quickly. I don't know if he will be able to respond.
Well, that's very unfortunate. Stephen Kubicek's done a lot of projects in the area, and my father lives in Orinda. He actually did his house. He did a fantastic job. I wish we could show you our plans and present them, but I don't know if I'm quite qualified to do so.
I don't know if Jonathan wants to, Jonathan, you want to show the set that you have so at least the public can very quickly see what they are.
And I can also make some general comments. We've purchased the home in '99. We've been on the property for quite some time now. We are on a private road. The home is on 2 3/4 acres. It's a very large property. It's very private. As Jonathan noted, we are surrounded by quite a bit of woodland. We are visible by the other ridge, but it's kind of interesting because when we look across, there's a house painted bright white that just stands out in the ridge line, and they had recently put in a pool and done some construction there. I have no problem adjusting the color of the home to blend further with the hillside. The other piece to this is that we've basically agreed with our neighbors. We have a private road, and we are going to ensure that we have a licensed pavement contractor that assesses the road, and anything that in excess of the normal wear and tear we will take care of. And it should also be known that the structure itself, even though it looks like it's quite larger, the footprint is not, because we're going down with the back portion of our home, and we're actually moving the home away from the other homes on our street, so it will be less visible from the street. The footprint itself, I think, is about only 500 square feet more when you look at it, and we're going down and we're adding, I forget what the lower area is.
1654.
1654, which is underneath, which is under the footprint of the home. So it really isn't spreading the footprint much more, but we are pushing out from the street to allow greater access, better ingress and egress, fire turnaround, etc.
Okay, I will bring the
Yeah,
plans
just very
up.
briefly.
Yeah, so we have I'll show here we go. This is a good exhibit that shows the relationship between the existing siding and proposed. So generally in the same location of the existing residence, shifted down the slope. There's an existing pool that will be retained. House will be demolished. New residence in its place. Maximum height is 27 feet 9 inches, 2 stories. I'll pull up the elevations here. Southeast elevation that presents itself to 2 Rimrock Road, and also visible to the ridge, as I showed during my presentation. Also the east elevation, this is downslope. The color material board shown here, this is the comment that we made during the completeness review of the project, recommending going with the darker stucco color to blend in the residence better with the hillside.
And we're happy to do that.
Yeah. Okay, why don't we move on to public comments? Do we have any public comments this evening?
I don't see any hands raised. If you would like to make a public comment, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. No hands are raised.
Okay, who wants to go first on this one? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Armin.
Sure. So I drove by the site today, and the house is very secluded. There's not much view which could be seen from the road. And I like the overall direction of the design. I think it's going to be a nice house, and given that it's only a single story from the street side, and then it's just a stepping down the hill. I think it's working pretty well with the residential design guidelines. There is only one concern I have is that, and that's the same as the existing house, that it's basically the garage door. It's a large garage door with a big driveway in front of it. That's the only visible side of the house from the street. And I would encourage the applicant to just think about integrating landscape, maybe more thoughtful with the front of the house to just address that, so the main face of the house wouldn't be a just large garage entry. Aside from that, I would also request for more context information in relation to the other buildings. I know that there is the size of the lot is pretty large, and it's not obstructing any views from any neighbors, but it would be good to just see a little bit more of the context information.
The context in proportion, is that what you said?
Context information.
Oh.
In terms of the sections, right.
Okay.
Okay, John.
Okay, shall I speak?
Yes, please.
I agree with Armin that the design direction of this house seems to make sense for the site. It is not highly visible to the other properties nearby. The stucco color, I think we would all agree. And in fact, when I was there earlier, I noticed the house in the ridge across from you stands out like a sore thumb. So maybe you didn't think about it till now, but it would be nice if they would calm that color down too. So I think we all agree on that. Normally, I like to see a rendering, but I think this house is simple enough and I can understand it enough that I don't feel I need that to be comfortable with the design. Armin's comment about trying to do something to soften 3 garage doors in a row as your primary street presence is a good one. I'm not really sure what the right answer is there, but I think that would be helpful. I would be comfortable with you working with staff on the color choice rather than coming back to us. But I think for the garage, it might be nice to see one more run at it to see what the street presence is and to see a street frontage elevation that includes some amount of context. I believe the house down the hill from you, you really can't see from there. Am I right about that? That if we're looking at your garage door, there's only foliage around that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we also,
it's just a matter of courtesy to your neighbors, what they see as they drive by.
Better than what we have right now.
I think it's a fine design. It's going in a good direction.
Yeah.
Okay, I visited the site and saw the story poles, and I can tell you that you can see them from the front street and you can hardly see them anywhere else. It was very hard to try to find them on from any other viewpoint. The color needs to be toned down to blend in better. As far as the comments that Armin and John made regarding the garage doors, ideally that would be nice, but when I look at what you have there now, you have a double garage door with 3 cars parked in front. And unfortunately, that's about what you're going to end up with here is only it's going to be 3 garage doors and 3 cars in front. So, So the architectural style doesn't really lend itself to some type of trellis or anything to span across that. At least I'm not looking at it that way, but maybe a landscape architect can give you some ideas about how to soften that up with some vegetation. I don't have any good idea because there really isn't very much distance between the street and those garage doors. And I'm hesitant to say something without seeing what the fire district is requiring you to do, because I think all they're going to do is pull up in front in your driveway, and that's going to be how they're going to service you. And having a bunch of vegetation there is not going to serve their purpose. So we're going to have sort of competing interest. But as far as architectural style, the use of the solar panels on the house, everything, I think the one thing I was unsure of was I thought that Matt made some comments about permeability around some, I know the pool isn't being done, but putting more permeable pavers in some of the areas to reduce hardscape that we have to some extent. But I think that we're close to being able to put together a resolution on this.
Great. And we have been struggling even now with the entrance. Sometimes, we'll get deliveries, people come in the side, they just don't know how to get in because our garage just faces the street. But to do anything like putting in part of the home, it just would probably be in the way with other people's views. It'd make the house a little bit more bulky and would not really fit the hillside as well. So we've decided to push it further out and include that setback, but we will look at what we can do around the garage to make it look better. I think my wife's been complaining about that for a while. So.
Okay, great. So do we have any last comments? Do we have a motion to, what date do we look at this coming back? Jonathan, did you have a date in mind?
Yes, the February 24th.
February 24th.
Yeah, and we're working, as my husband said, with Todd from the fire department, and we're really close to. I just delivered another set of plans showing him what we're doing. So he seemed to think that should satisfy them, but we'll get that final from them.
Okay, so do I have a resolution to make the minor changes on the color and look at the garage area design and have a continuance on the 24th?
So moved.
So moved by John. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. John?
Aye.
Armin?
Aye.
Glenn is aye. Thank you for your help with us tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, apologies for our architect, but thank you very much for considering.
It happens.
Yeah.
Okay, so what last thing do we have to clean up the evening? ARC committee.
One comment on ARC.
Pardon me?
I got one comment on ARC. ARC will be canceled this Friday due to a lack of applications, so we do not need a volunteer. Thank you for anyone that was planning on doing it, but we do not need a volunteer.
Oh, that was me.
Thanks, Glenn.
Okay, and commissioners report? No commissioners report? I never know what commissioners report's supposed to be. Is that supposed to be staff saying something to us or us saying something to staff?
So commissioners report is anything you want to share with the commission or the group, things that you're maybe doing outside that are relevant, or if you were serving as a liaison for a different committee, that might be an opportunity to talk about that. And then number 10 is staff liaisons report. So that will be when we talk to you.
Okay. I have nothing new to suggest, although I believe that Hoth was on the city council agenda this, but was it on consent or what was it? Do you
I think
remember?
it was continued. I think it's upcoming, so it's
Oh,
forthcoming, as is the Madison Park is forthcoming, the 71 units across from the
Okay.
library. So those will be on council on the 22nd. And so we'll give you an update on the 24th when we have our DRC meeting.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And then also just wanted to mention, I'm sure everyone knows, but we are doing our general plan update. And so there are housing elements information sessions upcoming. You should be getting a mailer, but also just send out to your groups to get involved and to come and ask questions. And then there will be an opportunity to provide your comments and feedback through our public engagement platform called Engagement HQ.
Okay.
And if you need information, go to the planlafayette.org website.
Thank you.
Sorry, may I ask when is that? What's the schedule of it?
So there's actually a series of 6. First one is next week on Thursday the 18th. And then it's almost every Thursday for, I think, through mid-March. But planlafayette.org, it gives you a whole schedule.
Thank you.
And that's it. Okay, thank you, everyone. Good to see you all again. And I guess we'll see each other in about 2 weeks. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
you.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.